Welcome to the Endless Entrepreneurs YouTube channel. My name is Luke Henson. I am a eBay seller, Poshmark, and Mercari seller as well. I invest in real estate, primarily long-term residential rentals, and I also work full-time in the corporate world. This channel is designed to document those first two businesses and show balancing those with my primary occupation, I guess you could call it. And this video today is going to be dedicated more towards the resell or the real estate half. A lot of my content is around reselling. Real estate's kind of more of the long-term venture that I'm going after. And so the updates are a lot fewer than a lot of the reselling content, but nonetheless still relevant to what I'm doing. I'm a big believer in having multiple things going on business-wise, and I'm also a big believer in long-term investing and thinking about the future, and real estate is that piece for me. I've had lots of requests to give an update on where I'm at. I haven't in quite a long time, probably like half a year. So I figured end of the year here, just actually turned over tenants in my rental property. Figured it was a perfect time to talk about that, give an update, talk about goals for next year, what I'm trying to accomplish, and hopefully just give you guys an update overall. So I'll definitely do Q&A at the end. This is live, so if you're rewatching for a later, that's why I'm interacting with the chat a little bit. But hopefully this will be helpful to someone, or it will make sense or spark some interest in something they'd like to do. And if you're new to my channel, please, if you enjoy the content, hit a like button at the end and subscribe for other content similar. So let me jump right in. I'm going to just give a little backstory to why real estate. From someone who resells, it's reselling to me is a very transactional business. Yes, you can grow it and scale it, and you can hire employees, and you can, kind of keep moving it in a bigger business. However, it's still at the end of the day is ordering something, running it through your system, your business, the operations, having an output and getting a return for it. For me, real estate is a lot more of a passive type investment, and nothing's truly passive, but it's a lot more passive than the transactional nature of reselling. My reselling business isn't just going to grow in value just by simply holding and owning the stuff on the shelf the way that real estate does. It doesn't really have the ability for someone else to pay for it from a tenant perspective and gain that equity. And there's just a lot of other tax advantages and things that come with it. And so for me, when I look at transactional reselling, and then I look at a little more passive, and the way I'm approaching real estate is a little more passive. There are the perfect complements to each other for me, from a long-term wealth versus a short-term transactional wealth. So hopefully that makes sense from a why perspective. I think it's always important to set that stage for, especially anyone new, or why you're wondering why someone who's reselling or growing a reselling business would even be interested in real estate. For me, I don't necessarily trust that Social Security is going to be there. Obviously I'm saving for my own retirement and things like that, having a full-time job. But I also, I really envision kind of my financial picture from like three silos. And that is, I've got my reselling business, like kind of the transactional entrepreneurial part of it. I've got my day job, which in the corporate world, which is kind of another pillar. Again, very trading time for money, transactional. And then I've got the third pillar, which is real estate for me. And they kind of all build up and develop that foundation. So that's just kind of how my mind works. That's how I'm developing strategy-wise. That's when I set goals every year. The other big piece to it is my wife is also a big believer in the real estate. So it's something we can do together, and something that we kind of can focus on together. She has her career and does very well, but it's something where we can come together and really have a venture together and doing. So enough about that. I think that sets the stage, at least for why reselling or why real estate for me, why it makes sense. So let me talk about, I guess, our overall vision and goals from Shannon, my wife, and my perspective. We've talked about since the beginning. We bought this townhouse. Sorry, someone's in the comments. I'll jump into that later, Jesse. Thank you. That's a really good tip. But so we had a goal, kind of a bigger overarching goal of trying to acquire one property every year. So we've been together for, we're coming up, I think that's 4 years, actually today, maybe 4 years. But we're approaching this looking at kind of every single year, we want to add a property to the mix and kind kind of slowly grow that portfolio. So, you know, 10 years from now, a decade, you know, 15 years from now, like we'll have a significant, meaningful portfolio, you know, at least significant to us, right? Small potatoes compared to some bigger people, but it'll be something that we can acquire each year, slowly add on, strategically think about, not overburden ourselves with trying to get things. And we started really slow. What we did was we bought a townhouse about 2 years ago. It was 2016. Knowing that we wanted to rent it out when we were done. So we made the purchase decision. We knew we were going to live in it for a while, but we bought in a good school district. We bought what we thought was a little below market value. We had some good opportunities that came up where even though it was a seller's market, they needed a fast close and some other things, and we got a little bit of a discount. We did some minor upgrades to it while we were there over the course of like a year and a half. I think we lived there for about 18 months. And then, about 15 or 16 months, actually, now I think about it. You know, we did some upgrades to it. And then that ended up being, when we bought this house, which was last November of 2017, right before we got married, we bought this house. We knew that would be our first kind of entry into owning rental properties. And then we were going to turn that into a rental property. So that's kind of how we got our start. You know, house hacking, if anyone's familiar with that, which is really buying like a 2-unit or 1-unit or whatever and renting it out to people while you're fixing it and living in it. That's another great way to do it. But this was the best way for us in our situation to really jump into it. So in either case, that's what we did. We moved in this place a year ago, and it was one of those things where like we started looking for another house we wanted to move into. Knew we wanted to rent that old one. Weren't sure that the timing was going to be. I had no experience being a landlord. Really was just jumping in. I'd read a ton on it. You know, I tried to educate myself the best I could. And then I had a great situation come up with a friend, with 2 friends actually, who needed a place to stay. One was moving here to Charlotte and one already lived in Charlotte. And so I ended up just, instead of marketing it, just kind of gave them a net cost rent, a little above to cover some of my costs. And they've been in it for 12 months. Worked out really well, had no issues, fantastic tenants. And actually it worked out great because their furniture and everything that they were living with, I actually used that to stage the house and took photos of to get it up for this next tenant when I was advertising it. And it worked out very, very well for me. They staged the house much better than Shannon and I did when we were in it. So definitely kudos to them. But so I never really had like the really jump in the deep end of trying to be a landlord and figure out like how to market it appropriately, how to screen tenants appropriately, how to draft leases, how to do, you know, just all the things that come with it. I didn't really have to do, like I did a lease with them, but it was like, it was a pretty informal thing. Like, I mean, I know them very well, and it worked out well. So this, like, very rapidly, like my buddy closed on a house, and I was really happy for him. But I was like, oh crap, like I need to rent this out again. And so went through that process this last, I guess it was over the last like 3 weeks, 4 weeks of took pictures. I had a professional come in, which I highly recommend if anyone gets there. I had professional pictures done. It was so worth it. My listing, I listed on a couple places I'll talk about in a few minutes. But my listing stood out from all the rest because I had professional photos taken. Most of the other ones did not. And I was getting tons of inquiries right away. You know, it helped it was in a good school district and all that. But in any case, so got photos taken. And I literally only had because of the way I positioned it, and long story short, I had about 35 days to find someone, or I was going to eat a month of rent or a month of the mortgage. So I posted it on like Facebook Marketplace, on my personal Facebook, on I think that was all I did to start. I just put it on there because I knew it was in a hot school district, and I posted in a couple of local Facebook groups that were specific to that school district in that area, and got a bunch of messages right away. But they were kind of like hit or miss, and like I was also feeling out like I had my own background check form to like have them fill out, and I was going to take, my whole thing was I was requiring 2/3 rent, and it's a pretty high rent area, so it's 2/3 rent as a security deposit, and then I was getting a non-refundable $40 application fee so I could run the background check and all that stuff. So for like, I don't know, it was like 5 days. I was, you know, back and forth, and I decided I read this really good tip on Bigger Pockets, which if you're interested in real estate at all, Bigger Pockets is the best resource in my opinion for learning. They have all amazing stuff. I'm actually a member there. I paid just so I can use the rental calculator and a couple other things on assessing properties. But in any case, what really good tip was, hey, instead of burning all your time and juggling around your tenants who are in there trying to do individual showings, get interest for a week and then schedule like an open house for like 2 hours, and just anyone who's interested can come see it. So you're not wasting a ton of your time. And I thought it was a really good tip. So that's what I ended up doing. And then the night or 2 nights before the open house, like I wasn't crazy about some of the people coming. I was like, we'll see kind of thing, but I wasn't super confident about it. So I posted on Zillow and made the listing on there. And what I didn't realize at the time, which I do now, and it's fantastic, is Zillow, once you set it up, it's first of all, it's free to post your property there, but it requires that anyone who applies to it, they have to pay Zillow $29, I think it was, per person, and they do the background check and the credit check for you. And then you as the landlord get to see it and have all that and can screen that way. So I didn't have to worry about collecting that information. I didn't have to worry about collecting the fees for it, any of that stuff. Like literally went there. And had I known that the reverse, I just would have posted it on other places and said to apply, go to Zillow. And I would have put the link there for it. So lived and learned. But in any case, I posted it on Thursday. I had interest on Friday from a couple of people who applied on there. A bunch of people came to the open house, met a lot of them. A lot of them weren't crazy about it. I was trying to get people to move in January 1. Like literally my tenants are moving out like I think they're in the process of moving out right now. So they'll be out by like the 26th. And I was trying to get someone to move in the 1st, have it professionally cleaned in between, etc. And so no one was really, I was like, oh, middle of the month, January, not really January 1. And so this people on Zillow, we're like, look, we're ready to give you a deposit today. We already applied to Zillow last night. We're waiting for the approval to come through. It should be through there any day. We love it, blah, blah, blah. And so, long story short, they were the only ones who could do January 1, which was what I needed. Everything came back great. I obviously don't want to give away a lot of personal information, but it went well. Like all the background stuff was good. Like credit check was good. It was a nice couple. Like it was good stuff. And so needless to say, went through. I mean, they move in on the 1st. Deposits all went through. I use a site which I highly recommend. It's called Cozy, COZY.com. And I use that to manage all my rental payments. It's great for tax purposes. My CPAs who specialize in real estate actually told me to use it. You actually can post your rental property for sale or for rent on there as well, and it helps market to other places. You can schedule your payments, you schedule the deposits. There's a spot for renter's insurance, all that stuff. So I was using that, and so like literally everything's set up and fingers crossed everything will be good. Like I said, my tenants move out the 26th. I have professional cleaners coming the 27th, and then I need to go over and do just a little touch-up painting just for where they took some stuff off the walls, and gonna swipe out a couple light plates and stuff that I didn't get to do before my buddies moved in, just to have a match. Just a couple little things that won't take very long, and then it's ready to go. And actually the nice part was, so the area it was in, I increased the rent by about $150 from what I was charging my friends per month. And originally I was going to increase it by about $200. And then I looked at the comps, and literally in the same neighborhood, the same townhouse community, same end units, same layout, square footage, everything, they were going for about, well, basically what I was charging my friends, which I was surprised about. I hadn't done a lot of research on it. I was like, really? And they had been up for a while and not rented. And I didn't look at them before I priced mine. I got my professional pictures, I posted it, and I had a price in my head, and that's what I went with. And it was like, I rented mine in like less than a week, basically. And these ones have been up for months. And this got me really thinking about the presentation and how big a deal that was. And that's why I think I recommend, I'm not an expert. Like I'm just figuring out as I go, and really just sharing with you what I'm learning as I go. But man, I really think the professional pictures, the really good staging, and honestly, pricing it higher with that staging, I think it was almost like value creation. My buddy was really talking about it and who was living there. He's like, look, like someone coming in thinks they're getting more because of that. And granted, we did some upgrades. Like we had all laminate hardwood throughout the first floor, so no carpet on the first floor. There's the first floor master. It's got a really cool loft on the top. And we just put in new carpet right before my buddies moved in the upstairs. So like it definitely had some nicer appeal to it, but to be $150 a month for the same layout and everything, I was like, I was pretty impressed about it. So really pumped about that. Fingers crossed it goes well. It's one of those things where I'm really going into it with an open mind. I know from a landlording perspective, you're going to have issues. It's the way it is. But, at the end of the day, having someone to pay down the mortgage on it, plus make money on it each month, and in this market that I'm in Charlotte, it is crazy how fast it's going up. And we might be kind of heading towards a market correction at some point, but we're kind of in a bit of a bubble here in Charlotte. The economy is so strong with the banks being here and all. Like we still, for almost a decade, have had 20,000 new people moving here every single year, and they're still building, and there are still more jobs, and the recruiting companies are going crazy right now. So even if there is a correction, I think that the market here is going to stay pretty stable just because of those couple things. And like I said, this is pretty much in one of the top school districts in Charlotte, which really is desirable. Like people literally move just to be in that school district. So it definitely helps having the property where it is. So, just the amount has gone up in value since I bought just in 2 years is just absurd to me off the top. And so, having someone else pay down the mortgage while it continues to rise in value is just a great thing that I like. And that's why I like real estate. So yeah, that's an update on where I am today. I do want to talk about kind of like what's on the horizon, what our goals are, what we're trying to do right now. We did fail on our goal this year. We didn't buy a second property. So, well, technically. So it's really interesting, right? So we bought in 2016, like the end of 2016, and then we bought the very end of 2017, like literally like we closed the 28th of November. So then we got married in January of this year, and it just didn't work out with this market. Like I've had an MLS query forever, seems like, on multifamily. We've changed it up, tried to find it. I really wanted to buy a multifamily this next time. I wanted a 2 or a 3 unit, and just the market is so crazy here right now that I could not find deals, and I didn't have a cash position where I could really go in and be aggressive and try to get a deal. I never want to say there isn't deals, because there's always deals in every market. There's always deals, but you have to have the right leverage. You have to be able to have the right relationships, and I just don't have them as a newer investor. Like, there just wasn't a real obvious spot where we could step in and do something here in Charlotte. And I really wasn't comfortable buying something away from Charlotte without being able to manage it up front or knowing any property managers, or really feeling any other areas. And so, like I said, we're obviously not using a property management firm right now. When I get to probably 2 or 3, probably with 3 is when the magic number for when I'll probably start to use a property manager. I'm not, for a couple of reasons right now. Is one, I want to learn how to do it myself. So I know all the nuances, know all the difficulties, all the kind of tips, kind of just feel it out. I think it's really important to do that. I mean, it's the same reason why I've done a lot of renovations myself. In the future, it won't be beneficial for me to waste my time on those, since I've built relationships with contractors, but it's important to know how to do all those things so you understand the cost of materials and everything that goes into it, so no one takes you for a ride. So I think it's kind of the same thing with the landlording. That's the approach I'm taking, at least. And, eventually, like I said, it won't be worth my time for some of the nuances, and property management will make sense, but right now it doesn't. So that's where we're at. We kind of failed on our goal for this year, but we do have plans for next year. And I'm going to address a question right now that kind of is geared towards where I'm about to go. And someone asked one more question: have you entertained the idea of doing Airbnb? And that's exactly something that I'm very interested in, and we're looking at right now, because the Charlotte market's so hot and we don't know when it's going to correct. We're trying to get cash heavy and get ready for it, because I think when it does correct, there will be a lot more buying opportunities. However, we don't want to go a full another year without getting a property and adding it to our mix. Shannon's always liked the idea of having a beach condo or beach property of some kind that's drivable, so that a couple weekends, I think the limit is you can do 14 days a year of personal use on a vacation rental and short-term rental, and still get all the tax benefits. So, we've been looking at that pretty aggressively now. We spent some time at some of the beaches in North Carolina over Labor Day, looked at a lot of different properties, actually went with a real estate agent and looked at a bunch to start sizing up the market. That was pre-hurricane though. So we haven't been back to really scope it out post-hurricane to see what's changed in some of those areas. If, what's happened with those, there might actually be better buying opportunities now. It's sad to say, but it's possibly true. So that's something with Airbnb we are very interested in. Quite a while ago, when I was starting a series on here, it was called Reselling Real Estate, which is what I use in here. I was planning to do that kind of weekly stuff, but realized I just didn't have the acumen or the expertise to really carry that out, execute it, and I didn't have a big enough network of people to be interviewing. But I did interview Robert from Short-Term Rental University, STRU. Great guy. Awesome content, but he's all about Airbnb, and I've learned a lot through watching a lot of his content. And that's one of the things that I'm kind of modeling after and thinking that's a route to go. And with Shannon and I are kind of on 2 things. We either want to do a lake property, so there's 2 lakes here in Charlotte, and do like something like that and get a boat slip, because that's something that we really, really enjoy, where we could, rent that out, but also just keep the boat slip for ourselves, so we actually could dock a boat and have that there. Or do the beach one. We're kind of on the fence. Some days we lean towards the beach, some days we lean towards the lake. I think it's just going to come down to what's the better buying opportunity at the time. I personally am higher on the lake ones. more from a financial incentive, just because the way Charlotte's growing, there's only so much lakefront property, and it's just going to become more and more of a premium as the market grows. It already is a premium, but I just, one of those things where it's like you kind of want to get into it when you can. But anyways, so that's what we're looking to do this next year. Basically, the plan is, if the market doesn't change here and it continues to be really tough to find deals without enormous leverage, we're probably going to go the short-term rental route, and we're going to pick up either a beach condo or like a lake property of some kind, and go that route. If the market does correct, we might look for a different property that way. And then like kind of a third wild card is, we have some family members who might be relocating down here, and then maybe an opportunity to buy something and have them rent from us because they don't want to buy yet. That might be a spot where we actually pull the trigger and buy something because we know we have tenants coming down and it just makes sense. So we'll see. A lot of opportunities, but we are pretty fully committed to trying to buy a property this next year, not letting another one go by. That would be 3 properties in like 4.5 years for us, which we'd be happy with, especially, with getting married and everything going on. But we want to really get back to that 1 per year type goal. Oh, sorry. So let me show you some of the comments here. But that's really kind of what is on the horizon. We want to stick to the 1 per year goal. If an opportunity comes to get multiple, we may. I think when the market corrects, whenever that does, that might be the year where it's like, okay, it makes sense to scoop up 1 or 2 here. And what I think may happen, and I kind of hope happens, is that it'll be like, all right, here's 2 in the same kind of neighborhood community, scoop them both up type of thing. Because it's really convenient to have them nearby. And I'm really going to focus from a Charlotte perspective on school district. I mean, I realize there's very little stress being in a good school district and trying to rent something because it's just such high demand. And I can't imagine trying to rent it in a bad school district around here, like how that would be. But in any case, that's where I'm at. I'm going to take some questions now. I'm going to jump in the chat here. Feel free to drop them. It can be real estate related. It can be reselling related. It can be personal. That's fine. I mean, I'll answer whatever as long as it's appropriate. So somebody said, I just finished the last video and asked you in the comments that I burn pallets. Oh, so I order pallets. I do liquidation. So I have a bunch of leftover pallets all the time, and asked if I thought of selling them like on local marketplaces. So I have, and I almost did. But what happens? I don't have a vehicle where I can go meet someone with them. Like if they fit in my vehicle, I would have already gotten rid of them by now and done that. And I'm not crazy about people coming to my house to buy stuff. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not like a head in the sand, scared of everything. I don't know, like I have a YouTube channel, I have this stuff. I'm like, I don't really want that. So it's easier for me to burn them. And honestly, I'm building a fire pit between Christmas and New Year's break. And they'll be great for the fire pit. So I just haven't had a fire pit big enough to burn them effectively. I have like this little little tin thing that I've used, and it's been great, but it's just not big enough for what I need. I will have no problem burning them. And here in Charlotte, having fires throughout the winter is really nice. Like right now, well, it's raining right now. It sucks. But when you get like those 50-degree days in nighttime, it's like 45. It's just really nice to have a fire and sit out there. So I'll have plenty of use for them, but that is a great idea. I do appreciate that. Let's see. So Jesse said, I heard in the U.S. you can get a mortgage for a fixed rate, a 25-year term. In Canada, we have to renew our mortgage every 5 years or so. Oh, wow. You can actually get 30-year fixed rate mortgages here. So that's my townhouse is a 30-year right now. And actually, I had thought about refinancing it and taking some of the equity out to make this purchase. But I'm not going to anymore because I just realized our interest rates went up. And my buddy who closed on the house, it was like he was telling me, and it was like I think I'm locked in at like 3.5%, and it's like to go up to like I think they're like 5.2 is about as low as you can get right now in this market. So I'm like, forget that. So I won't be refinancing. I'll probably do like more of like a line, like a HELOC or something on it when it's time to go, because I'm a big believer in using the equity in your properties to buy the additional properties. That's just kind of the general strategy. Donna said, make planters out of the pallets. Yeah. So I'm not big. It's a great idea. I hate yard work. So this is a really weird thing. Not weird. It really isn't weird. So I had a lawn mowing business growing up in high school. I took care of like 5, 6 lawns. I think it was 5. Took care of 5 lawns for many, many years, like from 14 on. And so I absolutely can't stand yard work. I actually just hired someone to clean up the yard for one last time, get rid of all the leaves. I got to remove a tree that fell down, a couple other things that they're coming. And I've pretty much just committed that I'm going to outsource my lawn work moving forward. I gave it a good go this last year, the first year here. in the yard and everything. And the reality is I just don't have as much time as I think I have, and ends up getting put way off, and then the yard looks like crap and the neighbors get mad. And so, yeah, I'm not a big yard work person. We'll be outsourcing that for sure. And I see Connie in the chat said, hi, Connie. Thanks for stopping in. Hi, Donna. I will take any more questions you have, reseller or not, or real estate is fine. If not, I will jump off. I have plenty to do, but this was on my to-do list. We're getting towards the end of the year, having a little more time. I've had a lot of people asking, hey, what's going on with real estate? Are you still investing in real estate? Yes, I absolutely invest in real estate. It is definitely the end goal. Hi, Jennifer. Thanks for stopping in. And really, honestly, if I'm being completely honest, for me, reselling, I think, is like one of those scalable 10 to 15 year things. And then eventually the real estate, the economics and the portfolio gets big enough where reselling phases out and real estate becomes a real big primary. I can definitely see that happening. And I wouldn't be upset about that at all. But that's definitely quite a ways down the road. Hey, Justin, thanks for stopping in, man. I'm trying to think what else. I want to make sure I got comprehensive updates. Also, with the change in the tenants or something, like, it wasn't as difficult as I thought. Like, it's so funny. I think there is such a stigma around being a landlord. The whole, oh, you're gonna get a call at 2 in the morning about a toilet, but like that's the thing you always hear. And it's like, well, no, actually, I'm not. Like, I'm not gonna pick up the phone at 2 a.m. I mean, I probably won't even hear it. And I will just call someone to go out and fix it when that happens, and they're gonna have to wait. Like, I mean, that's just the way it goes. And I even have in my lease, it's like they're responsible for normal house wear and tear stuff. Like, if you clog a toilet, like you gotta try to get it unclogged, and if you can't, then you're gonna have to wait a reasonable amount of time for someone to come out and service it. Like, that's just how it works. Now, granted, I want to be a good landlord. Like, I'm gonna jump on it right away, but I just think that some of those things are kind of fallacies about, like, oh, you gotta, like, yeah, I mean, things could go real wrong. Like, they could really damage the property. But one thing I'm doing, which is it was another tip I got from article I was reading, was I wrote into the lease and I communicate the tenants that once a quarter I'll be coming over to change out the air filters. Not because it's not something they can do, but it gives me an excuse to go see the interior of the property, both floors. There's one on each floor, the air intakes, make sure they do get switched out. They're not just saying they are, because that can really, affect the air quality and such. But also it gives me a chance to see the property and make sure that everything is going good. So that's something that I, kind of worked in, I think will help me to at least keep my eyeballs on it and see how that goes. So I just don't think it's as intimidating of a thing as it needs to be. Although I will say, honestly, like, it intimidated me a lot. Like, I was very, I definitely procrastinated and trying to get ready for it. Like, I just didn't want to deal with it. But it really wasn't as difficult as I thought. Justin said, I can't wait to rent this condo out. Everyone seems to think it's all bad being a landlord. Yeah, Justin, I really don't think it is. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, when you think about the economics of it, if you're in a decently, whatever market you're in, like, assuming just normal appreciation of a property, like, just not like crazy booming, like just normal, like just a little bit over time, you're getting appreciation while someone else pays your mortgage. You're getting the equity paid down the loan by someone else. All right. And then hopefully you're in a position where you're making more than the mortgage. So you're getting cash flow on top of it if you did it the right way. It's just a really good situation where there's only a couple touch points, maybe 6 or 8 times a year you're having touch points that people are fixing something. And like, the other thing that really helped take the stress out of me was in renovating the house right now. And so this house, by the way, we're doing one or two things with this house. So originally when we bought this, we planned for this to also be a rental. We knew prior to it, the person who owned it actually rented it out and did successfully for a couple of years. So we actually kind of bought it from a landlord, so to speak. And we've done some pretty significant upgrades here. We actually made an open floor concept in the bottom, all hardwood laminate floors. There's fairly new appliances, and we're doing some other stuff to it as well. We've added a shed to the property for free, which happened through the insurance. So just a couple other things that we've done. And so we're kind of on the fence. I think it's going to come down to, we're not in a great school district right now, and so when we go to rent it out, if it's difficult to rent it out, we may just flip it and sell it and take the extra equity and roll that into an investment. But either way, this house itself will be an investment vehicle, right? So the equity we're building by doing, and I've done a lot of the upgrades, will get rolled into an investment of another property. Additionally, we through doing some of the upgrades here, and like I had some recessed lighting put in. We had the main load bearing wall busted out and opened up. And so through that, I used two different contractors. The first ones were okay. I wouldn't use them again. And then the second ones I brought in to remove popcorn ceiling and put recessed lighting were absolutely amazing. Super reasonable pricing, solid quality work, super responsive, finished the jobs. They were in and out. They weren't like, piecemealing them, working you in with all the jobs. Like they came start to finish, boom, out. They text, which I love, text me back and forth. I have them do some more work. We're going to enclose in our porch out back. But so having them, and they've actually did a repair at the townhouse for me, which is electrical, and they kind of can just do everything. They've got a guy on their team for everything. And so having that relationship has just made it so much less stressful being a landlord and just kind of being on this journey now, because I have someone who will respond to my text and will send someone out within a day or two, like who I know is not going to rip me off. Just a very genuine, good people. And that makes all the difference. I would say for sure, if you're eventually going to be doing that, do some repairs in your own properties, use a bunch of different people until you find someone you love. That way, by the time you're doing landlord stuff, you have them and you have that relationship. And I think it just makes a huge difference. Jesse said, have you ever made a deal with a renter to do renovations for a cheaper rent price? I haven't, but I've been a tenant who has done that. So when I used to live in upstate New York, I rented from a friend of my dad's. He owned like a 4-unit place, and it was an older 4-unit place in the town I lived in. And we really wanted, like, it was old. I mean, it hadn't been painted in a long time. A lot of the molding was pretty chewed up and bad. And so we said we would paint, we'd repaint, we'd sand, sand, basically patch, and repaint the entire place. We sanded, replaced some of the damaged molding. We replaced all of basically all the hinges and hardware in the kitchen on the cabinets, and kind of sand those and touch those up, things like that. And we did that for probably 6 months. And he basically, every dollar we spent on it, we got to take off of our rent, obviously. And then he gave us like a small markup on the labor and the time we spent off of the rent as well. So that worked out really great. Granted, I think he owned the whole building outright. He had no payments on it. So he was just not free rolling, but it was cash flowing. So it didn't hurt as bad. But yes, I've done that. And it's definitely, if you have tenants who know what they're doing and they're good, that's one thing. You said to be weary of them doing bad work. But all right, guys, I'm going to wrap up here. I don't see any other questions coming in. Really appreciate everyone tuning in. I know this is probably just catered towards a smaller piece of my audience, but I didn't want to ignore it because there's some of you who've been longtime viewers and you've asked and you have similar interests. I just want to make sure I was addressing and talking about it. And then I'll try to make these a little more frequent, probably monthly, bi-monthly, just because the nature of it, like it's not a very active thing. It's a very passive thing, but I will make sure to always address it. And feel free to drop comments below, suggestions, whatever. I mean, I'm new to this. Contrary to the reselling and stuff, I'm not trying to position myself as someone who really knows what I'm doing. I'm just positioning myself as someone who's figuring out as I go. So just so you know, all I'm doing is sharing with you what I'm doing. I'm definitely not a real estate expert at all, but hopefully just sharing what I'm doing and why it makes sense for reselling adds some value. So feel free to drop those comments. Hit the like button on the way out. If you're new to my channel, definitely subscribe so you get notified with new content. And as you can see from playlists and other things on my channel, I do a lot of reselling stuff as well. So if you are into reselling, I do a lot of that. Have a great night, guys. Hope you guys' weeks are going well. Hope you got some great holiday plans. Get to relax with your families and recharge a little bit. I know I'm going to. So have a great night, guys. Thank you.